In this intro, we'll discover the basics of integration services. Integration services are service-oriented integration solutions that mediate interactions between partners, applications, web services and data sources, smartphones, and more. Integration service process one or multiple inputs to generate one or multiple outputs using a transformation logic. Pipelines provide service requesters with flexible options to access services. In this intro, we'll create an integration service that receives an Excel file sent by email to generate a text file sent by FTP. The workspace is organized into sections and the working area. From the resources section, we can link documentation to our service, including files like PDFs and more. From the published instances section, we can explore and test services. To implement integration services, the first step is to create inputs. Service inputs can be text files, delimited line or fixed length, Excel files, XML files including industry standards like PAPINET, defining the supply chain processes for the forest and paper industries. Here you can access the available business documents under the standard. You have also the chemical industry data exchange standard, the petroleum industry data exchange standard, and generic for XML-based business documents like SAP iDoc, for example. Service inputs can be EDI documents like X12, the US national standard, covering many domains like supply chain, finance, and many documents. EDIFACT standard, that is the United Nations standard for international trade, covering finance, supply chain, statistics, insurance domains, and many business documents. And you have the HL7 covering the healthcare industry standards. You can have also tables, queries, and JSON. The integration service expects an Excel file 2 columns. Next step will be to define service outputs. The integration service has to generate a text file and send it by FTP. So let's start by describing the text file, delimited line, and set up a sender for the output. It could be FTP, mostly used to transfer files, email tool that is used by all size businesses, the application statement 2, used for encryption and exchange of business documents in B2B transactions, HTTP used to communicate with web applications, services, and mobile devices. In this case, we'll set up an FTP sender, including the remote server, the user account, the backup folder, and the send strategy. The final step is to define the transformation logic between inputs and outputs. We use drag and drops to define the mapping logic between input data elements and output data elements. The service is now ready for publishing. Once we create a new version, the service appears in the Publish Instances section. We can then test the service and get a detailed execution report. The service is now ready for making online. We'll define a pipeline to enable service requesters send Excel data by email. We just have to provide the name to the pipeline, associate a service to it, and configure the email identities authorized to access the service. Once we publish the pipeline, the service becomes available for invocation. We can invoke the service from any email client, sending service inputs as attachments. See you next demo.